Hello, in this video we are going to discuss about joint stock company. This is chapter number 2nd, plus 1 business studies, forms of business organization. We would be doing the concept of joint stock companies, and then we would be doing the features of joint stock company. Along with features of joint stock company, we are going to do about the advantages and limitations of joint stock company. So we'll begin with the topic joint stock company with the concept of joint stock company. Now, joint stock company is an association of persons which is formed to carry out business activities and has a legal status independent on its members. Now, in this definition, you have three important things. One is it is an association of persons. Second, legal status. And third, members are independent. So joint stock company's definition itself tells us a lot about the features of the company. It is formed under the Companies Act 2013 or any other previous company law. The previous company law can also be referred to as the Indian Companies Act 1956. The company is an artificial person and have a separate legal identity. It has common seal and perpetual succession. All these features we would be discussing in the next topics, that is we would be discussing in the features of joint stock company in details. The capital of joint stock company is divided into smaller parts, and these smaller parts are called shares, and shares are easily transferable. Shares are easily transferable means that shares can be purchased and sold. So let us discuss the features of joint stock company. The first feature of joint stock company is an artificial person. A joint stock company is treated as an artificial person. Artificial means created by law. Artificial means created by law, and joint stock company is an artificial person because it is created by law, and a person means it acts like human beings, but it is an artificial one. It is not a natural human being. A natural human being can talk, natural human being can walk, eat, breathe, run, and do various activities. But it is an artificial person. It is an artificial person means it do not have any body, it do not have any soul, and it cannot run, talk, or breathe like natural human beings. But it is a person. On behalf of it is a person. It can conduct lawful business like any other person. It can come into contact with other persons. It can buy property. It can sell property. So it is an artificial person. Artificial means it is created by law. Person means like normal human beings. It can also come into contracts. It can also own property. It can also sell property. So it can sue others and it can also be sued. This is the feature first, that is artificial person of joint stock company. The second feature is separate legal identity. Joint stock company has a separate legal identity in the eyes of law. It means members are different and a company is different. Both are not the same. Company can purchase assets, company can come into contracts, the company is different and the members are different. Both are not the same. This is separate legal identity. Number 3, you have the formation of the company. The formation of the company is difficult process. The formation of the company is time consuming, it is expensive, and it is complicated process. Large number of formalities has to be done. Large number of documentations has to be completed. Registration of the company is compulsory according to the Indian Companies Act. The registration has to be done. Fourth feature, perpetual succession. Perpetual succession means permanent succession. Here permanent succession means that the existence of the company is not affected by the death, by insolvency, by the retirement of its members. The members may come, the members may go, but the existence of the company is forever. Company can only stop its working according to the law that is mentioned. The closing of the company here is referred to as the winding of the company. The closing of the company is referred to as the winding up of the company. The winding of the company is done according to law. So it is said that members may come and members may go, but the company remains forever. Then the control. The control is in the hands of the board of directors. The control of the company is in the hand of directors. We know that the shareholders are the owners of the company, but the control of the company is in the hand of the board of directors, and the board of directors is appointed by the top management, and they runs the business. Now directors are the legal representatives and they are accountable to the shareholders for the working of the company. The shareholders do not have the right in order to participate in the day-to-day activities of the company. So when it comes to the matter of control, we say that the company is controlled and managed by the board of directors, but the real owners are the shareholders of the company. Shareholders do not take part in the day-to-day running of the business. Next feature is the liability. Liability of all the members in a company is limited. Here, limited liability means that whatever investment the person has done in the company, up to that extent only he is liable, whereas his personal assets cannot be used in order to clear the debts of the company. So, the members of the company has limited liability. Common seal. Now we have discussed above that company is not a natural person. We have discussed that company is a artificial person. Company can come into contracts. The company can own property. But as because company is not natural person, company do not have its own signature. So common seal is the signature of the company. If the company has a common seal, that seal must be put on or marked on all the documents of the company. If a company does not have a common seal, then the process of signing the document should be done by the authorized board of directors. Otherwise, all the companies have common seal, and putting the common seal on the document means acceptance of the company to that particular contract. Then you have risk bearing. In a company, the risk is beared by all the shareholders. The risk is beared by all the shareholders. The amount of investment they have done, according to the amount of investment, they bear the risk of the company. The risk of the company gets spread to large number of people. The number of shareholders is more, the risk of the risk bearing will be high. Different people, they will bear the risk, or large number of people will divide the risk of the company between them. Next is the ninth point of features of the company, and we have the transfer of shares. The shares of the company are freely transferable. Person holding a share of the company, they can sell those shares in the market, and this market is known as the stock market. Now people, they are not bound with the company. A person having the shares of the company, they are free to sell shares, and it means the shares of the company can be easily sold and purchased. Therefore there is transfer of shares in a company. Let us discuss the merits of the joint stock company. The first merit is limited liability. We know that the liability of the shareholders is limited to the extent of the capital that they have invested in the company. So this is treated as an advantage. The personal assets of the members are safe and they are free from the charge of debts. It means they are not used up in order to settle the debts of the company. So this is the advantage of the company, that is joint stock company, the first advantage. Second is the transferability of shares. The shares are easily transferable. Because shares are freely transferable and easily transferable, shareholders are not bounded with the company. If the shareholders wants money, or if the shareholder wants his share back, then the shareholders, they can sell the shares in the market and get their money back, or they can get their capital back that they have invested. So there is a transferability of shares. Shares of the company can be easily be sold and purchased in the market. Then perpetual existence. A joint stock company has perpetual existence. It means that change in ownership or change in management do not affect the continuity of the company. Perpetual existence means that the persons, they can leave the company, new persons can join the company, but its existence is forever. Existence cannot be challenged. So this is one of the greatest advantage of this. Existence of the company is not affected by any death or any insolvency or any retirement of any member, and the company can only be winded up according to the company's act. And number 4, you have scope of expansion. There is large scope of expansion for the joint stock company. Now expansion in the previous forms, what we have done, this was the greatest problem, that it cannot be expanded to a large limit. There was a limitation on their expansion, but here it is an advantage, scope of expansion, because the company is having large resources. Because the company is having large resources, and the banks, they are also willing to provide loans to the company, and financial institutions are also willing to provide loan to the company. So the company is having the advantage of expansion, and it can be expanded further, and new units can be added up, new products can be added up in a companies, and it can be expanded further because of the advantage it is having. Then you have the professional management. In previous forms, professional management was not there. This was treated as a disadvantage, but here it is an advantage. Professional management means that company can employ specialists, it can employ experts, it can employ professionals to look after the operations of the company. So there is no managerial deficiency in the company has large amount of resources, and because of that, company is in a position to appoint large number of people. Company is in a position to appoint large number of people. A company can appoint experts, so that experts can run the affairs of the company in a better way. So there is a professional management in case of the company. Let us discuss the disadvantages, the limitations of a joint stock company. First disadvantage is the complexity information. Complexity information we have discussed above, that the formation of the company is time consuming, it is expensive, and large number of paperwork, large documentations, large legal formalities has to be done. So the formation is a difficult process. It is not an easy process. It is a lengthy process. So it takes large amount of time, and the formation has to be done according to the company's act. So this is treated as a problem. Lack of secrecy. In joint stock company, there is a lack of secrecy. and because the accounts has to be audited, the accounts has to be published, and from time to time the information has to be provided to the registrar of companies. So information also has to be provided to the general public regarding the assets of the company and different activities of the company. So there is lack of secrecy in this form of organization. Next is the impersonal work environment. Impersonal work management means management means that there is a lack of effort as well as a personal involvement on the part of the officers. So there is no direct relationship between the rewards and efforts. No relationship between rewards and efforts means that the officers of the company or the managers of the company, they are paid employees, so they will be getting the part of the profit, or they would be getting salaries. So there is no direct relationship between award and efforts. There is a lack of effort as well as personal involvement. Large companies have difficult makes it difficult for the owners and the management to maintain close contact with each other. So because of the large nature of the company, it is impossible to have a close contact or a personal contact with the owners, with the managers, with the consumers, employees, or the creditors. So there is impersonal work environment. Then you have numerous regulations. Large number of rules and regulations has to be followed from time to time, and because large number of rules and regulations has to be followed time to time, it is a difficult thing. Now, delay in decision making. So in a joint stock company, the directors generally do not belong to a particular place. They live in large areas, they live in far off areas, and whenever the decision has to be taken, it takes times to them to come to those places, or come to need some time so that they can come to a particular place, and that is why there is a delay in decision making. And most of the opportunities of quick decision making are lost because decision taking making takes times, and all the decision has to be taken in a general meeting, and general meeting has to be fixed in advance. At the same time, the board of directors belongs to a different places, and they have to come from a long places. They have to cover long distance in order to come to the place of a meeting or discussion. So it is a time consuming process. So there is a delay in decision making. Oligarchic management. The oligarchic management means the rule in the hands of few. Rules in the hands of few, or rule by a few individuals. Now, in theory, it has been stated that shareholders are the real owners of the company. They are they are they are the persons which are behind the management of the company. But in real sense, the management of the company lies in the hands of the board of directors, which are less in number. And these board of directors, they take their independent decisions, and shareholders of the company, they are scattered, they are disunited, and so they do not show much of the interest in the company's meeting and other things. So there is an oligarchic management. In simple term, oligarchic management means it is ruled by few individuals. No doubt shareholders are large in numbers, but they are scattered, they are disunited, so they are not taking interest in the company's meeting, whereas the board of directors are less in number, and they are controlling the company in whatever way they like. So these are the sixth point of oligarchic management, and the last one is the conflict in interest. There may be conflict of interest among the various stakeholders of the company. Conflict of interest in stakeholder of the company. Why? When you talk about the stakeholders of the company, so who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders are the shareholders, they are the workers, they are the consumers. All these are the stakeholders. So let us take an example that employees may have their own interest. They want higher salaries. Employee may want higher salaries, whereas consumer may want goods at cheap rates. So here employees, they are also the stakeholders. Consumers, they are also the stakeholders. They wanted goods at cheap rates, and employees, they wanted better salaries. Shareholders, they're also stakeholders, and shareholder may want better dividend. So different stakeholders we have, and different stakeholders demands are different. So this may result in the conflicts in interest between the different stakeholders. Workers may be demanding more and more salaries. Consumer may be demanding goods at cheaper rates, whereas shareholders may be demanding more and more dividend, and this may result in conflict in the interest of the company. So these demands, they creates a problem, and it is very difficult for the management of the company or the board of directors to put all these stakeholders in a better position or in a comfortable position so that company can be run in a better way. Thank you.